Archiving started.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Medical Law and Ethics, Chapter 3. This is the importance of the legal system for the physician and the healthcare professional. Now, what are the medical practice acts? They are established examining boards that, like a nurse will take an exam, an MA will take an exam, a physician will have to take an exam. These are established examining boards, and they provide the baseline for the practice of medicine in any discipline. They predetermine the prerequisites for licensure, and they forbid practice of medicine without a license. Specify conditions for renewal, suspension, and revocation of the license, and it does vary from state to state. If you remember, I talked about reciprocity, but that will come in a slide in a little bit. Now, how does a physician get licensed in the first place? Well, there's an exam, there's a national board for medical examination that all physicians take. There's a federal licensing examination, and then the U.S. medical licensing examination that is taken by the foreign medical school graduates that want to come into the United States and practice. So as I had mentioned, reciprocity is the cooperation of one state granting the license to practice medicine to another physician already licensed in another state. An endorsement is an approval or sanction. A little bit more about licensure is registration. It occurs annually or biannually. The physicians have to pay a fee, and they are required to complete up to 75 hours of continuing medical education within a 3-year period. So it's credits, things or classes that they go to, or any type of like a class that they go to. Now, when a valid license is not needed by a physician, when they are employed by a federal medical facility, I mean, they have to be a licensed physician to practice medicine in some states, but they don't have to be within, let's say, in Washington, D.C., but they're licensed in Florida or Illinois or North Dakota. If they're in Washington, D.C. and working for the government, they don't need to be licensed again in that state. Also, in an emergency, when they're establishing residency, they don't need a license yet. They're not done. And when they are engaged just in research, they don't need a license to practice medicine because they're researching and they're not seeing patients. Now, what about a revocation or suspension? It can be caused by any unprofessional conduct, whether it's falsifying of records or any gross immorality, commission of a crime, such as rape, murder, narcotics conviction, larceny, and a Medicare or Medicaid fraud. And if they are incapacitated personally, whether it's physical or mental, their license can be revoked. Licensure and certification of allied health professionals. Licensure is granted when a person is a graduate from a medical school and they pass the national exam of competency, and certification means they meet standards set by an accredited body and they pass that national exam and shows their competency. Accreditation happens voluntary when a request is made for an official review by an accredited agency. They examine the policies and procedures of that agency. For example, a hospital has to be accredited. They have to demonstrate that the institution maintains high standards. And one of the things that you're going to be working on in one of your first weeks is JCAHO or KHAP. And those are accredited bodies, and will be asked to pick 2 hospitals in the area that you live in and research about their JCO accreditations. What are they excellent in or not excellent in? And now standard of care. What is it basically? It's the ordinary skill or care that has to be used by medical practitioners. And it says that the same knowledge, care, or skill that a similarly trained physician or professional would provide under the same circumstances. And it has to be reasonable and prudent. Would that person perform a reasonable and prudent standard of care? An example of a weakness here would be, let's say, an OBGYN physician goes on vacation and they leave a podiatrist to cover for them. Is that a problem, you think? Yeah. Absolutely. So physicians are not obligated to treat everyone. In the case of an emergency, they are expected to use reasonable, ordinary skill and care, not extraordinary. They are expected to exhaust all of the resources at their fingertips available to perform this patient care, but they should not expose any patient to undue risk. Prudent person rules. Excuse me. Well, the following information has to be provided to a patient. The diagnosis of what's wrong with them, the risk or consequences of treatment, and the expected benefits of such treatment. Is there an alternative procedure or treatment that can be offered? If so, it must be brought up. Let's say the patient decides on having nothing done. Well, what's the prognosis if that happens, if no treatment at all is chosen? Also, the cost and the expected pain needs to be discussed, and it's the following of acceptable standard of care must always be followed. Confidentiality, big deal this quarter. Keeping private all information about a patient. No disclosure ever without written consent. The Medical Patients' Right Act states that a federal law has been written and is in place to give all patients, the right to have privacy respected and all of their records held strictly confidential. I think you're going to be awfully surprised when you start to do a little research on the internet how many people don't follow that. Now, what about statute of limitations for a lawsuit? The patient usually has between 1 and 3 years, depending, to file a lawsuit, and the discovery rule begins when a problem is discovered first, or when the patient should have known of the injury. We will, of course, cover the Good Samaritan laws. These are state laws that help protect healthcare professionals and ordinary citizens from liability while giving care in an emergency. No one is required to provide except in the state of Vermont. You may not walk away from someone who needs care in the state of Vermont. The Good Samaritan laws require that a person is to act within the skills of their own training. And once you start, you must continue until help arrives, or you physically cannot continue. In other words, you may know someone can't breathe and you have something stuck and you can't get it out with the appropriate chest thrusts and et cetera. But you cannot perform a tracheotomy. You know a simple procedure. You're not a physician. You may not do it. So now, here's I had mentioned this in Chapter 1 lecture, Respondeat Superior, Latin, says, let the master answer. Means that the employer is liable for the acts of an employee within the scope of their employment. So that's something that we need to follow. The employee's duty to carry out orders is always important. They have to interpret them properly and carry them out. If they don't understand something, they have to clarify it. Or if there's an ambiguous or an error in the order, it needs to be questioned and clarified. And it is your duty to decline an order that appears dangerous for a patient and to notify the physician. As we get more into this chapter, I'll tell you about something that happened to me when I had my 3 back operations within 10 days last year. Oh, this year, actually, since 2012. So now the book practice. A person needs to understand and work within the scope of practice for the discipline they've been hired for, and the guidelines of that profession that they are in. They have to understand and follow the chain of command so that no employee will make a decision that they're not qualified to make. That makes sense, don't you think? And the employer's duty to the employee is to provide a safe environment, of course, for that employee or for the entire staff. They have to have insurance to cover any accidents or unforeseen incidents that can come up. They have to bond employees who handle money. And then they have liability insurance for auto. If someone is using a car for business-related duties. If you're working in the lab and you are required to go out and talk to patients at their homes, then the physician should cover insurance for you when you are doing that for them under work hours. And lastly, risk management is a practice that is used to control or minimize an incident or problem behavior that might result in some injury to a patient or an employee, and therefore will be a liability for the employer. The best thing, there are 3 things to do: identify any risk behaviors or practices, and obviously watch out for them, develop and follow plans of actions to eliminate them, and if there is a policy in a procedure book or employee handbook, all things should be written down and show how to address any corrective action, etc. And that is all there is in Chapter 3. I hope you have found this helpful. Let me know how it goes for you, and I will be talking to you again quite soon. Bye-bye.